Welcome back. Thanks to everyone who joined our Discord after the last episode. We easily blasted past our 1000 target, and the Discord has been full of great conversations. If you missed out last episode, don't worry, you can still join, and we'd love to have you. It's the best place to get all the PlanetSmith news and ask questions. And please add PlanetSmith to your Steam wishlist. This is the best way you can support PlanetSmith right now. Links are in the description. In the last episode, we got mesh blocks working. It was a complex task, but it's super powerful and key for the next blocks type I want to add. Smart blocks. I'm calling any block that changes shape depending on its surroundings a smart block. The first one we're going to tackle is fences. Fences need to be able to connect to adjacent fence pieces. If we place a fence piece on its own, it would be a single post. But if we place another fence piece on an adjacent block, the two should connect. We can break this down into two pieces, the post and the rails. Now, one way to do this would be to hard code the post and rails, but I want to reuse our new technique from last episode, mesh blocks. If we use mesh blocks, we can easily make changes and create different styles of fences too. This makes the code a lot simpler too. We just need to find the mesh for our post and planks, then insert them as needed using the mesh insertion code from last episode. But how do we decide when to insert planks and when to not insert planks? Our blocks need to be smart. This is achieved by using a bit mask, which stores the adjacency information for the fences. This information is conveniently already calculated for all blocks, as it's used for culling, so we can just hijack that information and use it here. Each block looks at its 6 neighbor blocks and calculates whether or not to occlude. This function outputs 1 if there is no occlusion and 0 if there is. This is then bit shifted by the edge, and the block above and below is also calculated to leave us with a render mask, where the bits with the value 1 are rendered and 0 are skipped. So for fences, we want to draw a plank where this value is 0 and skip it when it's 1. This bitewise operation decodes that information for each edge and skips the edges where the test fails. We can now input our fence into the voxel manager, setting one mesh for the post and one for the planks, then assigning a texture for both. Here, I'm reusing the wooden planks texture. That was quick. Here is a working fence block. It works just as you would expect with adjacent sections being joined together. A post can have multiple connections. Even all 6 neighbors can be connected. It will also connect to other blocks, which we get for free by using that render mask. We have different wood colors too, which were simple to make as I only needed to change the color picker for each variant. The different colors also highlight how each plank is made from 2 half planks. Now, I have had this suggested a lot in the comments, to make some sort of block that lets you have flat walls. I actually made a smart block that did exactly that in the very early builds of PlanetSmith, but I dropped the idea as I didn't like the way it looked and worked. However, I've had some new inspiration, and I think now I have a good idea which will make this a really good block. Here are these dynamic blocks, and as I start placing them, you can instantly see they are doing a really good job at making a straight wall. I can build the wall higher too, and even cut out a nice window. If I want a building, I can place blocks around And these smart blocks make a nice corner too. So what's my issue? These blocks, at first glance, seem to be great. And they can be. But only if you build nicely with them. I'm now purposely placing blocks a bit randomly. As you can see, we're getting a lot of weird shapes. If I place a layer differently on top, the problem gets even worse. You can't tell by watching this, but it's really difficult to predict how placing a block will change the structure, and it's hard to control exactly where you're placing a block. Now, if I start cutting out holes, you get these weird shapes too that look terrible. This is no good. It will just frustrate players. So here's where my new idea comes in. At the start, those straight walls were looking good. So, what if we just keep that feature and scrap the rest? To do this, walls should only connect and be straight if the block detects it's in a straight line. Otherwise, it should just use a standard hexagonal block. If you have multiple walls converging, all you need to do is add standard blocks at the crossing and the problem is solved. This is the new wall block script. It again uses the render mask to determine how to draw itself. This line at the top inverts the mask and removes the top and bottom mask, which makes testing easier. I'm just testing if the mask matches the three cases where we want it to be a flat wall, when edges 0 and 3 are connected, or edges 1 and 4, or edges 2 and 5. If it's none of those special cases, it just draws a standard block instead. Drawing the walls section is split into two parts, drawing the sides and drawing the top and bottom. I had a little trouble with working out the triangles on this one, but nothing a little trial and error wouldn't solve. After 4 or 5 attempts, I got it working, and here is the final block. Like before, it's giving you these nice straight edges to work with, and you can go for other angles, and instead of curving that block at the corner, it's now putting a full block in, and if we add another block, it again adds full blocks where it's more complex, and this just keeps the shapes a lot more predictable and simple. I can also build the walls up and it works nicely. Go to 3 high. However, there is one quirk now that if you put a window in, you do get those full blocks at each side of the window. Perhaps that's something I need to iron out, or perhaps that's something we would keep. I'm still not 100% convinced on this block. Perhaps it needs some further tweaks, or perhaps this type of smart block just isn't right for PlanetSmith. Let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe you think this type of block's great, or maybe you think that we should have some of the other options for making flat blocks, where instead you're adding the pieces on manually yourself. Or maybe you think that PlanetSmith doesn't need these types of flat surfaces at all, and it's just part of the game. As I build a little hut, I'd like to thank our YouTube members. I really appreciate your support. Come join us on Discord and join the discussion. Also, don't forget to subscribe and add PlanetSmith to your Steam wishlist. That is one of the best ways you can help support the project. Next episode, we're going to have a little change of pace and move away from all this block talk and instead talk about lighting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.